Greeting students. This video I'm preparing for those candidates who want to prepare for AWS Certified DevOps Engineer Professional Exam. DOPCO2 is the code of the exam. I These slides from AWS official site to help candidates who want to appear in DevOps Engineer Professional Exam. This exam validates candidate technical expertise in provisioning, operating, and managing distributed systems and services on exam. It also validates how a candidate can implement and manage continuous delivery systems and methodologies on AWS. It also implement and automate security controls, governance process, and compliance validation. It also check knowledge of the candidate for defining and deploying monitoring system, metrics, and logging systems on AWS. Implement systems that are highly available, scalable, and self-healing on AWS. It also checks knowledge on design, manage, and maintain tools to automate operational process. Candidate, what is a recommended AWS knowledge? So the candidates who want to appear for this exam, at least they should understand how to build highly automated infrastructure. Once the infrastructure is built, how to administer operating system and all the AWS services, should have experience on modern development and operational process and methodologies. Candidate should got experience on securing AWS infrastructure. So there are two types of questions in the exam. One is a multiple choice, which is having one correct response and three incorrect responses. The second is multiple responses. So a question is having two or more correct response out of five or six responses. For multiple choice questions, candidate need to select one response out of four responses. For multiple response questions, candidate need to select two or more that best complete the statement or answer the question. There are 65 questions that affect your score. There is no penalty for guessing. This exam also includes 10 unscored questions that do not affect the score. AWS collects information about performance on these unscored questions to evaluate these questions for future use as scored questions. The unscored questions are not identified on the exam. So the next part is how AWS is declaring the result. DevOps Engineer Professional Exam has either you are pass or you are fail. Exam is scored against a minimum standard established by AWS professionals who follow certification industry best practices and guidelines. Result for the exam are reported as a scaled scores of 100 to 1000. Minimum passing score is 750. Score shows how you perform on the exam as a whole and whether you passed. Scaled scoring model help equate scores across multiple exam forms that might have slightly different difficulty level. The exam uses a compensatory scoring model, which means that you do not need to achieve a passing score in each section. You need to pass only the overall exam. Content outline. The exam has the following content domains and weighting. There are 6 domains from where question comes in the DevOps Engineering Professional Exam. Domain 1 is SDLC automation. So in SDLC automation, how you can automate the software development lifecycle. 22% of is code content. So it is having weightage of 22%. Domain 2, configuration management and IAC, 17% of is code content. Domain 3, resilient cloud solution, 15% of this code contents. Domain 4, monitoring and logging, 15% of this code content. Domain 5, incident and event response. It has 14% of its code content. Domain 6, security and compliance, 17% of its code content. So these are the 6 domain which AWS published, which also tell what is a weightage for every domain. I will come to next section. I will explain what are the tasks in different domains and how a candidate can prepare to excel in the exam. Domain 1 says SDLC automation. There are number of tasks which AWS published. To be honest, if a candidate understand this task, he or she should be able to clear this section, this domain, and can get 22% for this code content. So first one is implement CI/CD pipelines. This section tells how you can implement CI/CD pipelines. So it also tells how to configure code, image and artifact repository. It also tells about the version control to integrate pipelines with application environments. It also tells setting up build process. For example, we have AWS code build. It also tells about managing build and deployment secrets. Secret manager, parameter store. So this is how you manage, build the secrets. So for example, if you have to use username and password, you can use either parameter store and you can use system manager, and your application pick your credentials from the system manager, from the secret manager based on the use cases. It also tells the deployment strategies. So there are 5 or 6 skills a candidate should understand for answering the question for implementing the CI/CD pipelines. The second task is integrate automated testing into CI/CD pipelines. So at least candidate should understand running build or test for pull request or code merge. So AWS have different DevOps services. So we have AWS code commit, code build, code deploy, code pipeline. How to have load and stress tests, how we can have the performance benchmarking, application testing, how we can measure application health, how we can automate unit test and code coverage. Also, how AWS service can be used to build a pipeline. So this section, this task, a candidate should understand how you can integrate automated testing into CI/CD pipeline. The 1.3, that is build and manage artifacts. But also the candidate should understand creating and configuring artifacts repository. So we have AWS code artifacts. How we manage the artifacts. So how we store the artifacts. For a storage perspective, we use code artifacts, imagine S3. We have the ECR. So when you work on containers, so use ECR service. How you generate artifacts. So you have code build and AWS Lambda. How we can automate EC2 instance and container image build process. A candidate should understand how we can build a Docker image, how we can automate to build a EC2 machine. It comes under build and manage artifacts. 1.4, implement deployment strategies for instance container and serverless environment. Knowledge, a candidate requires the knowledge of deployment methodologies. So EC2, ECS, EKS, Lambda, EFS, S3, EBS, then deployment, mutable deployment pattern to in contrast to immutable deployment pattern. Tools and services available for distributing code. A candidate should skill in configuring security mechanism to allow access to artifact repo. So candidate understand about the IAM or the code artifact, how we can deploy the agent, how we can troubleshoot deployment issues, what are the different deployment methods we use. So for example, we have the blue, green and canary deployment in terms of Lambda. Domain 2, it says configuration management and IAC. So there are different statements or tasks which AWS wanted to check for a candidate knowledge. Define cloud infrastructure and reusable component to provision and manage system throughout the life cycle. A candidate should understand about the serverless application model, cloud formation, cloud development kit, stack sets across multiple accounts, how you can deploy cloud formation in multiple accounts, AWS Ops Work System Manager, AWS Config, App Config. Person should understand. Task 2.2, deploy automation to create onboard and secure AWS accounts in a multi-account or multi-region environment. Require knowledge of account structure, skills in standardize and automating account provisioning and configuring, creating, consolidating, and managing accounts. So a candidate should understand organization, control tower, SCPs, roles, guard duty, server catalog, SCPs, control tower, service hub, Amazon detective. So these are the couple of services a candidate should understand for answering the questions within this domain. Design and build automated solution for complex tasks and large scale environment. Some of the services which we use: design and build automated system inventory, patch management, system manager, Lambda step functions, how we deploy the Lambda function automation, how we use system manager, how we use app ops work, how we maintain the software compliance through system manager. Domain 3, resilient cloud solution, implement highly available solution to meet resilience and business requirement. So it says knowledge of multi-agent and multi-region deployment, replication and failover methods for stateful services. The candidate should skill in translating business requirement into technical resiliency need. It should have knowledge on DynamoDB, Amazon RDS, Amazon Route 53. Domain 3 is resilient cloud solution. So there are a couple of statement which AWS need. A candidate should acquire knowledge, he or she should understand how to implement highly available solutions to meet resilience and business requirement. They require knowledge of how to set up multi-agent and multi-region deployment, how to replicate and use the failover method for stateful services. Also, skills in cross-region solutions, DynamoDB, RDS, Route 53, Amazon S3, Amazon CloudFront. Configuring load balancing to support cross-agent services. Configuring applications and related services to support multiple agents and regions while minimizing downtime. Implement solutions that are scalable to meet business requirement. So it requires knowledge of serverless architecture, containers, loosely coupled or distributed applications or architectures, metrics for scaling services, implement automated recovery solution to meet RPO and RTO. So this is one of the topic where you will find 3 to 4 questions. RPO and RTO, recovery point objective and recovery time objective. These are the disaster recovery concept. RPO says recovery point objective, how much RPO is 1 hour. So a company can lose 1 hour of data and RTO is 4 hours. It means within the 4 hours, the business should resume. There are different backup and recovery techniques AWS provide. Pilot light, advanced, standby, active. These are the backup and recovery techniques. We have the recovery procedure. So how to do backup and how to recover the data within the same region and with multiple regions. Domain 4 is monitoring and logging. Say 4.1, configure the collection, aggregation, and storage of logs and metrics. It requires knowledge of monitoring applications infrastructure, CloudWatch metrics, real-time log ingestion, encryption options at rest and transit of logs. How we use the encryption keys. Skills in storing and managing logs, CloudWatch metrics, custom metrics, managing log storage lifecycle, S3 lifecycle, CloudWatch log and group retention. Kinesis Lambda open source services, which is required knowledge. Configuring encryption of log data. Audit, monitor, and analyze log and metrics to detect issues. So it requires knowledge how to config AWS, how AWS config work, how QuickSight, CloudWatch dashboard, X-rays, Kinesis data, Athena, log inside work. It need in-depth knowledge of these services. You should understand. 4.3, automate monitoring and event management of complex environment. It need knowledge of S3 event notification, event queries, SNS Lambda, auto scaling groups, RDS storage, auto scaling, DynamoDB, ECS capacity, auto scalers, Lambda EC2, automatic recovery. Health check capabilities. You should understand how ALV target group works, how Route 53 works. The person should skills in DynamoDB scaling groups, RDS auto scaling, capacity provider, CloudWatch custom metrics, alarms, S3 events, SSM agents. You should understand all these concepts and in-depth knowledge. So while you solve any of the questions of these domains, if you are not understanding the concept, you see the question, go back, understand the concept, then try to implement. You will get much knowledge. One question knowledge can correct three more questions. We have domain 5, that is incident and event response. So there are different tasks which AWS provide. Let's manage event source to process, notice, and take actions. AWS services that generate, capture, and process events. Health event bridge CloudTrail. Integrating AWS event source, building event processing workflow. SQS, Kinesis, SNS, Lambda, and step functions. Implement configuration changes in response to event. Troubleshoot system and application failure. And in security and compliance, implement techniques for identity and access management at scale. Require knowledge of appropriate uses of different IAM identities for human and machine access. Single sign-on identity provider organization SCPs. Network security component, security groups, NACL routing, network firewall. Certificates and public key infrastructure, data management, data classifications. You should get a knowledge of this concept. You should also understand how you can use security controls in multi-account and multi-region deployment. Security Hub organization, AWS Control Tower, WAF config, AWS config rule. Guarduty security group, AWS KMS, AWS Cloud HSM, ACM, Imagine Macy. Implement security monitoring and auditing solutions. It requires knowledge of CloudTrail, PPC flow log, Drift, inspector, analyzer, config. It also skills to implement robust security auditing, configuring alerting based on unexpected or anomalous security events, analyzing logs, metrics, and security finding. There are other concepts which might also appear on the exam, which are here: application deployment, integration, pipelines, automation, optimization, deployment requirement, hybrid deployment, IAM policies, NACLs, operation best practices, analyticals in Athena, EMR, data, Firehose, data stream, OpenSearch, QuickSight, AppFlow, EventBridge, AppRunner, EC2, auto scaling, image builder, containers, App2 containers, Copilot, ECR, ECS, EKS, Fargate, Aurora, serverless, DMS, DynamoDB, Elastic Cache, memory, DB for Radish, RDS, Redshift, CLI. There are different kind of developer tools: code build, code commit, code deploy, code guru, code star, vault, injector simulator, manage and governance, auto scaling, cloud formation, cloud trail, CloudWatch logs, config, control tower, manage service for Prometheus, OpsWork, Harmonization, Proton, Resilience Hub, Service Catalog, System Manager, and Trusted Advisor. In networking and content delivery, API Gateway, VPN, CloudFront, Load Balancing, Private Link, R53, Site-to-Site VPN, Transit Gateway, VPC. Security, Identity and Compliance, ACM, Cloud HSM, Cognito Detective, Directory Services, Guarduty, Inspector, KMS, Network Firewall, WAF Shield, STS, Security Hub, Security Manager. So this is a syllabus for preparing for DevOps Engineer Professional Exam. There are 6 domains as I specified. What I will do, I will take one domain in one video, explain how these services work. Then I will take a couple of questions and I will let you know how to solve those questions once I will clear it. If you like this video, please comment, like, and share to all the aspirants who are going to appear in DevOps Engineering Professional Exam. Thank you.